You start very strong, focused, committed, certain. You build momentum. Day after day, you move closer to the version of yourself you've always wanted to be. The fit version of you, the disciplined version, the version with confidence in the way you walk, in the way you speak, in the way you carry yourself. The version that wins, that creates financial freedom, more time, more control, more space to breathe. The version that doesn't quit when things get uncomfortable. For the first time, it feels real. You're showing up. You're consistent. You're doing the work even when no one is watching. Then, something shifts. You hesitate. You delay. You disappear. Not because you failed, not because you couldn't handle it, but because you were getting close. Close to change, close to growth, close to becoming someone you've never fully been before. And that's when it happens. You skip a day, then another. You break a promise you made to yourself, not loudly, quietly. You tell yourself it's temporary, that you'll get back on track, that you deserve a break, that it's not that serious. But it is. Because this isn't random. It happens at the same point every time, right when momentum builds, right when progress compounds, right when success starts asking something in return. This isn't laziness. This isn't a lack of motivation, and it's not because you don't want it badly enough. This is self-sabotage. Not as weakness, but as protection. Your mind isn't trying to destroy your future. It's trying to protect you from the unknown version of yourself that success requires. And sometimes, progress feels more threatening than staying the same. This video will not push you to try harder. It will show you why your brain resists progress and why you sabotage yourself right when things start working. This is the dark psychology behind self-sabotage. This is the human code. Self-sabotage is not doing the wrong thing on purpose. It's doing the wrong thing automatically. It's behavior that undermines your long-term goals while you consciously want something else. You want progress. You want consistency. You want change. Yet your actions quietly move in the opposite direction. Think of it like building a large building. You have the blueprint. You know exactly what needs to be built. The steps are clear. The materials are there. You know where you want to end up. But instead of reinforcing the foundation, you rush the base. You cut corners where it matters most. The building still goes up. From the outside, it looks fine. Sometimes it even looks impressive, but underneath, the foundation is unstable, and sooner or later, cracks appear. Self-sabotage works the same way. You follow the plan until pressure increases, until expectations rise, until the structure starts demanding stability, and that's when the system underneath fails. This is not laziness. Lazy people don't build momentum first. This is not a lack of motivation. Motivation is often high at the beginning. This is an internal conflict. One part of you is building toward the future. Another part is trying to protect the present. Self-sabotage isn't chaos. It's a system. A system where conscious goals and unconscious protection mechanisms are no longer aligned. And until that conflict is resolved, no blueprint, no matter how perfect, will hold. To understand self-sabotage, you have to understand one thing first. Your brain does not care about your goals. It cares about your survival. Progress means change. Change means uncertainty. And uncertainty has always meant danger to the human brain. For most of human history, staying the same kept you alive. Familiar patterns meant safety. Predictability meant control. Growth did not mean success. It meant risk. Your brain still runs on that logic. When you move towards something new, a new level of discipline, a new identity, a new standard for yourself, your brain doesn't see opportunity. It sees threat. That's why self-sabotage activates right when progress begins. Not at the start, not when things are already failing, but when momentum builds. Psychologically, this is driven by powerful mechanisms. Your brain prefers what is familiar, even if it's painful. The fear of losing what you know feels stronger than the potential gain of something better. Your brain scans for what could go wrong long before it considers what could go right. Together, these biases create one outcome. Staying the same feels safer than becoming someone new. That's why comfort pulls harder than ambition. That's why relief beats progress in the moment. Self-sabotage is not self-destruction. It's self-preservation based on outdated information. Your brain is trying to protect a version of you that once kept you safe, even if that version is now holding you back. And until you understand this logic, you will keep fighting yourself instead of retraining the system. Self-sabotage isn't mainly about your habits. It's about your identity. Because your brain protects who you believe you are more than it protects what you want. You can want a better life. You can want discipline. You can want success. But if your self-image says, "That's not me," your system will resist. Here's the trap. You don't sabotage goals. You sabotage contradictions. When your actions start moving you toward a version of yourself that doesn't match your identity, your brain experiences it as instability. And instability feels dangerous. So it pulls you back to what feels familiar. This is why people say things like, "I'm just not a disciplined person. I always mess things up. I can't stay consistent. People like me don't really win. I'm not built for success." Those sentences aren't observations. They're identity rules, and your behavior will obey them even when your conscious mind hates them. Now here's the darker part. Sometimes you don't sabotage because you think you'll fail. You sabotage because you might succeed. Because success comes with consequences. If you become the disciplined version of yourself, people will expect more from you. You won't be able to hide behind potential anymore. You won't be able to blame lack of time or bad luck. You will be responsible. And responsibility is heavy when your identity has been built around surviving, not building. For some people, struggle is familiar. Chaos is familiar. Being almost there is familiar. But arriving, actually becoming the person you said you wanted to be, is unfamiliar. And unfamiliar success can feel like losing yourself. So your brain chooses the identity that feels safe, even if it hurts you, even if it costs you progress. Because familiar pain feels more controllable than unfamiliar freedom. This is the identity trap. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-image. And until your identity updates, your progress will always trigger resistance. Self-sabotage isn't a mystery. It has patterns, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. The question isn't, why would someone do something so stupid? It's, what is this behavior trying to protect me from? Most self-sabotage shows up like this. 1. Risk right before reward. You get close, and suddenly you create danger. 2. Self-made chaos. You disturb stability because stability feels unfamiliar. 3. Emotional numbing. Scrolling, drinking, binging, overworking, anything that shuts the feeling down. 4. Relationship testing. You poke at love, control it, or damage it before it can hurt you. Quick example. A law student has an exam tomorrow and suddenly chooses the club tonight. Not because he's stupid, because failing after not trying hurts less than failing after giving everything. Now, the pattern that destroys the most lives. Relationship sabotage. Let's talk about Angel and Quincy. They've been together over a year. From the outside, they look solid, attractive, social, good chemistry. Quincy is smooth, confident, a high-status athlete, a potential pro footballer playing international matches. Angel fell for that. But underneath, something else is running the relationship. Angel doesn't feel safe in stability, not because Quincy is wrong, but because calm feels suspicious when your nervous system was trained on chaos. So Angel starts testing. She starts arguments over small things. She becomes jealous without evidence. She assumes betrayal before it happens. And when Quincy tries to reassure her, she doesn't relax. Because reassurance doesn't fix the real fear. Angel's deeper fear isn't losing Quincy. It's being hurt by someone she trusted. So her brain adopts a strategy. If I create instability first, I won't be surprised later. Control feels like protection, even if it destroys the relationship. That's what sabotage looks like in relationships. Picking fights before big moments, creating distance when things get close, punishing your partner for old wounds, threatening to leave to feel in control. And sometimes the root is deeper than personality. Childhood trauma teaches a rule. Intimacy is dangerous. So when love becomes real, your body reacts like it's under threat. Not because you don't care, but because closeness once came with pain. So don't ask, what's wrong with me? Ask, what am I trying to protect myself from by destroying my own progress? Because once you can see the pattern, you can change the system that runs it. Let me show you a version of self-sabotage that doesn't look dramatic. It looks responsible. It looks busy. It looks like ambition. Meet Nina. She's sharp, reliable, always delivering. The person people lean on when things get serious. Then she gets the call. A promotion, more money, more responsibility, more visibility. She accepts. And for a moment, she feels proud. Then the pressure hits. Not because the job is impossible, but because the stakes feel higher. So the sabotage doesn't start with failure. It starts with micro-behaviors. Nina begins to over-prepare. Hours on details that don't matter, perfecting instead of progressing. She delays the uncomfortable tasks, the hard conversations, the decisions, the moments where she has to be direct. She starts saying yes to everything, to stay liked, to stay safe, and then silently burns out. Her sleep slips, her focus fragments, her confidence drops. Then comes the pattern. She misses one deadline, so she panics and overcompensates. Late nights, caffeine, rush mode. She recovers briefly, then she crashes again. And in her head, the story changes.
Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe they overestimated me. Maybe I should pull back.
So she does. Less initiative, more hiding, more delay. From the outside, it looks like she's overwhelmed. From the inside, it's avoidance disguised as effort. She's working, but not on the right things. That's self-sabotage in professional form. Perfectionism that delays action, busyness that replaces impact, overcommitment that creates collapse. And the result is always the same. Progress slows, confidence drops, and the old pattern wins. In the next part, we expose why it keeps happening, the hidden payoff. Self-sabotage only survives for one reason: it pays. Not in money, not in progress, but in emotional relief. Because every time you sabotage, something inside you gets to avoid something else. Sometimes you sabotage to avoid judgment. If you never fully commit, you never have to face a real verdict. Sometimes you sabotage to avoid responsibility, because if you succeed, you can't hide behind excuses anymore. Sometimes you sabotage to avoid expectations. Success raises the standard, and that standard can feel like a cage. And sometimes you sabotage to stay loyal to the old you, the version that struggled, the version that stayed small, the version that people were comfortable with. Because growth changes your position in the world, and not everyone will like that. Here's the real payoff. Self-sabotage gives you control. If you destroy it first, you don't have to risk losing it naturally. If you fail on your terms, you don't have to face failure on someone else's terms. Sabotage becomes a way to feel safe. That's why it repeats, because your brain learns a dangerous rule. Relief now is worth the cost later. And the moment you see the payoff clearly, you can finally start breaking the loop. Here is the code behind self-sabotage. It's not random. It's a loop. 1. Progress. You start moving forward. Momentum builds. Results appear. 2. Identity threat. Your growth clashes with your self-image. Success starts demanding a new version of you. 3. Anxiety. Pressure rises. Fear of judgment, expectations, or exposure kicks in. Your nervous system reads it as danger. 4. Avoidance or sabotage. You delay, you distract, you numb. You create chaos, just enough to interrupt progress. 5. Relief. Not happiness, relief. The threat feels smaller. Your system calms down. 6. Guilt. Then the mind catches up. You see what you did. You feel shame. You criticize yourself. 7. Reset. You promise to start again. You get serious. You rebuild momentum. And your brain learns the rule. Sabotage equals relief. So it repeats the loop the next time progress gets real. Break the relief, and you break the loop. Here's why willpower doesn't fix self-sabotage. Willpower is a moment tool, but self-sabotage is a system. Most sabotage doesn't start with a decision. It starts with a state, a shift in your nervous system, tension, restlessness, an urge to escape. And by the time you notice it, your brain is already moving toward relief. This is the sequence: emotion first, behavior second, rationalization last. You don't say, "I'm going to sabotage myself." You say, "I'll start tomorrow. I deserve this." It's not a big deal, but the real driver is the same. Your brain is trying to reduce discomfort. That's why trying harder fails, because trying harder still keeps you inside the loop. Progress, threat, anxiety, sabotage, relief. And relief is powerful. Relief trains the brain faster than logic does. So if you rely on willpower, you're fighting biology with motivation. That's why the solution isn't more force. It's a new system, one that interrupts the loop before relief becomes the reward. And that's exactly what we're building next. You don't break self-sabotage by wanting it more. You break it by changing the system. Because willpower fights the moment. Systems reshape the loop. Step 1. Identity exposure. Stop calling it failure. See it as a signal. Every time you sabotage, ask, what identity is being threatened right now? What version of me feels unsafe? Name it, because what you can name, you can control. Step 2. Shrink the threat. Your brain sabotages when success feels too big, so don't make the goal bigger, make it smaller. Lower the emotional weight. Instead of, I have to transform my life, make it, I will do the next rep. I will write the next paragraph. I will show up for 10 minutes. Small wins reduce threat, and reduced threat prevents sabotage. Step 3. Detach identity from outcomes. If your self-worth depends on results, progress will always feel risky. So you adopt a new rule. I do the work. Outcomes follow. You measure consistency, not perfection. You track inputs, not ego. Your identity becomes the person who shows up, regardless of the score. Step 4. Pre-commitment. Most sabotage happens when emotion takes control, so you decide before emotion arrives. You set rules while you're clear-minded. When I wake up, I train. When it's 7 p.m., I study. When I feel resistance, I start anyway for 5 minutes. No negotiation in the moment. The decision is already made. Step 5. Environmental control. If your environment is designed for distraction, your brain will lose. So you remove triggers. Delete the apps that pull you back. Change the room where you waste time. Cut access to quick dopamine. Build friction around sabotage and reduce friction around progress. Environment beats intention. You don't fight yourself. You outsmart the loop. And once the system changes, discipline becomes easier because self-sabotage has nothing left to feed on. Now let's make this practical. Not motivational, operational. Because in real life, sabotage doesn't announce itself. It shows up as a feeling, a state, a pull. So you need a protocol, something you run automatically. Here it is. Protocol. N1. Notice. The moment you feel the shift, restlessness, tension, I don't feel like it. You don't negotiate. You label it. This is the threat response. 2. Name. Ask one question. What is the identity threat right now? Examples. If I do this, I might be judged. If I succeed, expectations rise. If I commit, I lose the excuse. You name the threat in one sentence. That sentence removes fog. 3. Next. You do the next smallest action for exactly 2 minutes. Not the full workout, not the full study session. 2 minutes. Because your goal is not performance. Your goal is to interrupt the loop before relief becomes the reward. And here's the second system, the friction map. Write 2 columns. Sabotage becomes harder when the phone is out of the room. Apps are logged out. Alcohol or snacks aren't in reach. You can't accidentally escape. Progress becomes easier when your tools are already set. You have a default time and place. The first step is frictionless. You can start without thinking. You don't need more motivation. You need less access to your triggers. Run the protocol, change the friction, and the brain learns a new rule. Progress equals safety, not threat. You are not broken. You're not hopeless. You're not doomed. You're not weak. What you're experiencing is protection from an outdated system. A system built for survival, not for growth. Built to avoid pain, not to build a future. And once you understand that, the shame starts to lose its power. Because awareness breaks the loop. Not motivation, not pressure, awareness. When you can see the pattern in real time, you stop being controlled by it. And then you replace willpower with systems. Systems that shrink the threat. Systems that protect your focus. Systems that make progress automatic. You don't need a new personality. You need a new structure. And that's the difference between trying to change and actually changing. This is the human code. If you want to decode the patterns running your mind and take control of your behavior, subscribe and keep decoding.